So, our community spotlight today is Idaho Legal Aid, free civil legal assistance to low-income Idahoans, seniors, and vulnerable communities. That is presented by Jenna Furman. Jenna Furman, Deputy Director, has worked with Idaho Legal Aid Services since 2020 as a staff attorney, then Director of Development and Special Projects, and as Deputy Director since 2024. Before moving to Idaho in 2019, she previously worked as a staff attorney at another legal aid organization in Michigan, as a judicial attorney and as a private criminal defense attorney.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jenna. I will share my screen. I am going to try to keep to the just 15 minutes. So if I am going over, please someone tell me, because I know there is another speaker after me. So let me just. All right. Can you all see that screen?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay. So today I just wanted to give you all a little bit of an introduction to who we are at Idaho Legal Aid Services and what we can do to help seniors. I will have a couple hypothetical situations that we can see with seniors that'll help maybe kind of issue spot some issues legally that seniors encounter come to us. So we'll do that a little later in the presentation. For now, I'll just kind of explain who we are. We are a nonprofit civil law firm. We do not charge for our legal services. We are primarily grant funded. So we do have some restrictions that come with grants. And I know there's someone from the Area Agency on Aging here today. And so I just want to say a shout out. Thank you for funding our offices with for seniors, for work for seniors for there. Um, do have offices all across the state. So we have an office in Coeur d'Alene, Lewiston, Nampa, Boise, Twin Falls, Pocatello, and Idaho Falls. We also have a satellite office in the Nampa Family Justice Center, where we have three full-time attorneys devoted to domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, and trafficking work. In addition, we do also have some of our Boise attorneys who are part-time located at the Women and Children's Alliance and the Ada County Victim Services Center for some brief services that they can help people out who are coming in to those organizations. We also have three free legal advice lines. One of those is our domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, and trafficking advice line. Another is our housing and veterans advice line. And our last is our senior for people ages 60 and plus and public benefits advice line. So those free legal advice lines are something that if someone calls us or walks in or fills out an online application with us, we try to make sure that everyone who qualifies for our services gets at least advice from one of our attorneys statewide. And so they'll usually get placed on one of these legal advice lines first before they end up getting a referral to a local office for any further assistance. And then how to apply for services. We have telephone intakes, online intakes, and applications in person. For seniors, we also have a legal risk detector referral, which is a really helpful tool that helps people identify different issues that they might be facing in different areas of their life. So there are some questions related to housing issues, some questions related to financial issues, some questions related to caregiving issues. So that is an interesting tool that if somebody fills it out at the end of the application for the senior legal risk detector, it will tell you how vulnerable you are in those different areas and whether or not you should be seeking advice from an attorney based on how you've answered some of those questions. I will say probably the quickest ways to get services with us are either our online intakes or our legal risk detector. We do have pretty limited phone availability just based on some staffing resources and some staffing cuts we've had to make in recent years. So that's just something I like to tell community members is that people can definitely get frustrated trying to reach us over the phone because we do have limited telephone intakes. So definitely encourage them to fill out our online intake if they can, if they're able to, or to fill out a legal risk detector if they're able to. And this is just what our webpage looks like for applications for help, and a little bit of what our webpage looks like in terms of types of things that we can help out with. So all of these boxes that you see are clickable. So we try to make it as mobile friendly as possible as well, because our statistics show that most people are accessing our website on their phone. This is kind of an example of what our senior legal risk detector looks like. So again, this is kind of a tool that goes into different areas of someone's life and asks questions. So this just shows you the housing area and asks some questions about housing. Do you have a written lease with your landlord? Are you behind on rent payments? Are you having issues with heat or hot water? Things like that. And depending on how somebody fills this out, it will again show them whether they are low or high risk, legally speaking, related to some of these issues and whether or not they should consult with an attorney. Okay. So how does it work when somebody applies for services with us? We have some intake staff who will screen people for eligibility. There are certain types of cases that we can't take because of restrictions from our grants. So we cannot take criminal cases. We cannot take any cases where the primary objective is to seek money damages. So that usually ends up being things like personal injury cases, defamation cases, things along that realm where the goal is to get money damages at the end. We also can't assist with most immigration matters. We have a little bit of a caveat there where we can assist with a domestic violence, sexual violence, or trafficking survivor who's seeking a visa based on those issues. So if someone was, say, trafficked into the United States from another country and wants to stay and was able to escape the person that trafficked them, there are some visas that would allow them to stay for at least some time to kind of get back on their feet. So we can help with those types of things. The things we have to verify when somebody applies are income, assets, and legal status. Again, that's based on our grant funding that we have to look into those things. Once eligibility is determined, typically a client's going to be placed on one of our advice lines for a 30 to 45-minute phone consultation with one of our attorneys. And that attorney can help further with some brief services, such as a demand letter to a landlord, helping someone fill out court forms, sort of anything small like that, something like a Miller Trust for seniors, which helps them become eligible for Medicaid. After that call, the attorney who does that advice line call can refer that client to the local office that would serve them for further assistance if they need it. So we are able to take cases, to trial. We do a lot of litigation work with our firm. So that's certainly something that if someone needs that type of help and we have the resources available, we try to do. And typically it takes about a week for someone between their advice line call and a referral to the local office to hear back from us, whether or not we're able to take that case for further representation. Each office does hold what's called case acceptance meetings once a week, which is just where they go over the referrals they've received from all sources, whether it's partners, online, walk-ins, or telephone. And then they decide which cases they're able to take and assist with. Just a little bit more about us. Right now, we currently have 19 attorneys across our 7 offices. That also includes our satellite office at the Nampa Family Justice Center. We've had more attorneys in the past. We have had some federal funding cuts, and so we're only at 19 right now, but we hope to increase that in the next couple of years with some increased funding. The most recent statistics I have available are our 2024 statistics, but in 2024, we closed 3,166 cases, which benefited over 5,000 adults and over 3,500 children. And sadly, an estimated 6,000 eligible Idahoans had to be turned away in 2024 just due to lack of resources. For any of those Idahoans who have to be turned away, we do refer them to any self-help or pro se resources on our website or to the court assistance office in their local district or any other resources that might be able to assist them. So these are the types of cases that we can assist in, generally speaking. So legal assistance for domestic violence and sexual violence survivors, legal assistance for seniors age 60 and older, and also vulnerable adults. Housing issues. Typically for our housing cases, clients must be low income based on the grants that we have for housing funding. We also have a migrant farm worker and an Indian law unit. Those two units have very specific types of law that they do. We do represent or have contracts with most of the tribes in Idaho, and each tribe has us do something a little bit different for them. And with our migrant farm worker unit, it is pretty specifically for people who work in the agricultural or food processing industry. And then we also can help out with public benefits. A lot of what we see with that is Medicaid is probably what we see the most of, and then SSI and SSDI are probably the second most areas we see the most of. In terms of the areas that we see the most for seniors, we do a lot of healthcare planning with seniors. So healthcare powers of attorneys, financial powers of attorneys, living wills, Miller trusts, which are a tool that can be used for someone who is over income for Medicaid. And it allows them to basically draw down their income on a monthly basis to become eligible for Medicaid through a Miller trust. We do a lot of long-term care facility work. So if someone's being, wrongfully discharged from a facility, if there are issues with Medicaid related to long-term care, if there are issues with public benefits like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, veterans benefits, disability benefits, or food stamps, those are also things we can assist with. We do a little bit of wills work. We only do simple wills. So I will say if someone has, large assets, that is not something we'll be able to help with, mostly because our grants would not fund that type of work, and because it's just not a skill set that our attorneys have. We also do a lot of help with decision making for seniors. So any alternatives to guardianships, we want to try to avoid guardianships to any extent possible and try to counsel seniors on things they can do to avoid having that in their life. And then housing, it runs the gamut from anything from eviction, age discrimination, other types of discrimination, utility issues, someone who maybe had a relative live with them and needs to figure out how they can have that person out of their home due to some issues, which we'll have a hypothetical about in a little bit. And then consumer issues, scams, we see a lot with our senior population, and issues with financial exploitation. So those are some of the more common consumer issues we'll see with seniors. And then family law, a lot of grandparent guardianships for minor children, sometimes protection orders, sometimes divorce, and obviously any elder abuse or neglect cases as well. And again, this just shows some more common cases that we take for seniors. We do a lot of Miller trust works, which are unique to Medicaid eligibility, but we don't do other trust work. So if someone has, substantial assets like $500,000 that they want to put in a trust to bequeath to someone, that's not the type of work that we would do. There are lots of private attorneys who would be able to help with that type of work, though. We also don't assist with any tax implications of things. So whether that's real estate tax, gift tax, or estate tax, that's just outside of our expertise and outside of our grant funding. Similarly, any complex wills or will contests or probate contests, those are typically going to be outside of our wheelhouse and kind of outside of our funding as well. And again, representation in tort or personal injury or any case where the main objective is to just obtain money damages from the other party. Those are typically cases we're not going to be able to take. And criminal cases and most immigration cases are other cases we're not going to be able to assist with. Okay. So the first hypothetical I had for you all, just kind of to see an example situation with a senior who might come to us for help, or what some possible legal issues the senior might be facing. So Arthur, 65, has begun forgetting things he's done throughout the day and simple tasks. He sees his primary care physician, and his primary care physician diagnoses him with early stage dementia. Arthur does not have a healthcare power of attorney and has not made any plans for distribution of his personal property following his death. He does not own a home and is not married. He has a daughter that lives nearby and visits often. With his recent diagnosis, Arthur realizes he may one day require full-time nursing care. So, what types of legal issues may Arthur have now, or may he have in the future? And I'm not going to call on y'all and make you try to figure this out because I know we have limited time. So, I've just kind of put some questions on the next slide. So, with Arthur's diagnosis, he may in the future not have the legal capacity to understand or sign legal documents. So, does he understand the intent of any documents he's signing? It seems like right now that wouldn't be an issue, but in the future it could be. So are there any documents, legally speaking, that he could put in place that will help him when he's maybe no longer able to have the capacity to sign those documents? So, should he do a power of attorney for healthcare? Should he do a financial power of attorney? Should he create an assisted decision-making plan? Does he need a plan to meet Medicaid eligibility limits, such as a Miller Trust? Can he do a simple last will and testament to bequeath his personal property and determine his wishes for his end of life, whether that's, burial, cremation, what kind of services, etc. And is Arthur still working? Does he need assistance applying for disability benefits? Will he need that in the future? Just what kind of issues could possibly pop up for him with this recent diagnosis? And then I just have one other hypothetical. So Helen, 74, is a retired school teacher living independently in her long-term home in Boise, Idaho. While her physical mobility is slightly limited due to mild osteoarthritis, Mark, 29, is Helen's nephew. And about 6 months ago, after Mark faced eviction and job loss, Helen kindly invited him to move into her spare bedroom. She viewed it as a temporary favor to help him get back on his feet. And while Mark was initially helpful and took over driving her to the bank and the grocery store, he did persuade Helen to add his name to her checking account so she could easily pay the utility bills for the house. Instead, he used Helen's debit account to pay off his personal credit cards. When Helen started questioning where her money was going and why her basic monthly bills were falling past due, Mark became volatile. He subjected her to verbal intimidation, yelling that she was senile, threatening to move out and abandon her. And on one occasion, Mark pushed Helen during an argument where she fell into a nearby chair. She was unhurt, but she fears for her physical safety. Helen also recently signed a power of attorney drafted by Mark, giving him full control over the home's property deed and access to her finances.
So,
So what types of
can
legal issues? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
can I have you wrap up with telling us what legal issue she would need to face or talk to you guys about?
Yes, sure. So probably the key thing here is, can we revoke the financial power of attorney? Did she sign the financial power of attorney knowing what she was signing, or was she under duress when she signed it? Is she a victim of elder abuse? Can she evict Mark? There's no lease agreement. What can she do if there's not? And can she remove Mark's name from her bank account? And would she qualify for a civil protection order? So those are kind of some issues that came up with that hypothetical. And I apologize if I'm over time, and you can look at the rest of the slides related to some online resources we have, some quotes from some clients, and contact info for me if you all have any questions.